What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Misadventureland game show. I'm Bobby, and I'm here with Justin.
Hi there.
Hi there. How's it going?
Oh, it goes. I was just watching the YouTube to make sure this came through, and I was like, I don't see us live yet.
Yeah,
But
you know what
I
happened,
refreshed.
Justin? You know what happened, Justin?
Please tell
I
me.
didn't click the button that said auto start on YouTube, so on YouTube Live. So that means like I pushed the stream live, and I saw it in this there's a little window here that I can see like the preview of the live. But it didn't automatically kick it to like actual live to the world, to the peoples out there. And I realized
All
it
that matters
just
is we're here
before the
now.
end of the theme song.
Thank
But we're here.
goodness.
You can see us on your YouTubes. You're looking bright, Justin. We're looking.
I am looking really bright, and I don't know what's up.
You're bright and beautiful, and we're here for
I
this.
need to just lower this light here.
So we're here for it. I'm drinking
Apparently
bourbon, and we're here to talk about video games.
I just finished a cup of coffee, so we should be good for exactly 1 hour and 5 minutes before I crash again.
I thought you were gonna say you just finished a video game. I'm like, wow, Justin.
Finish video games? Me?
Who are you, me?
No, that's not allowed.
Who are you, me?
I know.
I'm gonna say we are live right now, talking about Elden Ring, which is not totally true, but you know, it'll be true
Not
soon.
yet.
It'll be true soon. It'll be true very, very soon. Yeah. What do you, me, Justin? You gotta get on my level and start finishing video games.
I don't finish video games in the time frame that you do it, and I apologize for that. I really don't like how this has turned out. I'm not a fan of how you whip through games now, and I feel the need to catch up with you instead of feeling like, okay, I've got like a 4-game pillow on Bobby. I'm doing all right.
My list keeps building. I got like that like Trello board where I'm moving things over from currently playing to finished. That list is getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer, baby. It's getting longer.
I'm not that far behind you.
No, well, you had a little bit of a lead before I started this run, so
Yeah.
and now I'm catching up. I'm catching up to you.
You really are.
So you know we're gonna see what happens. Some of the games that I have finished, we didn't talk about yet because we didn't do a games podcast last week. We did a very fun, good time Star Wars podcast that you can find on our YouTube channel right now. So, you know, it was a lot of fun. But this week we're going to be talking about Elden Ring. They dropped 20 minutes of Elden Ring footage, about 20 minutes, right, of Elden Ring footage, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, about that.
And then we're going to talk about some games we've been playing, including things like Inscription and Guardians of the Galaxy, and possibly, I don't know, Metroid Dread is another thing we may speak of. Because Justin has
Maybe a
finished
little bit of
Metroid
Hell
Dread.
Let Loose.
Oh yes, that feels like that was a million years ago that we played Hell Let
It
Loose.
was. Because the last time we did a games podcast, we forgot to talk about it, and we
did.
both wanted to.
It's true. We played a little Hell Let Loose, so we'll talk about that as well. But Justin, I think we wanted to kick off and start a little out of the ordinary. Start with Elden Ring. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so let's.
It's we have not talked about this very much.
No, we have not. We started talking via text, and Justin said, "Save this to me."
I have to.
In the middle of our conversation,
we run out of material.
In the middle of our conversation, I gotta save this from Justin. All right, so yeah, let's talk about Elden Ring. A video game that is coming from Software, Justin's favorite developer.
My absolute favorite. I don't know who should start this. Should I start my thoughts on watching this? I think you should start this because
people are. I mean, I think due to your feelings on From Software games, I feel like you should start this conversation.
Okay. So I knew we were doing this tonight, and I've pretty much stated that, Elden Ring is not something that I'm like super looking forward to. I said that I was definitely going to take a look at it when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
This 15-minute gameplay trailer, I'm going to say gameplay trailer, even though it's mostly an overview.
Yeah.
Whips ass.
What is it
It
about the footage that we saw and the things that are being said about it that had you
I
interested?
think actually it's this right here, this battle that we're looking at. So right now, Bobby has the video playing, and
Mhm.
we're seeing the co-op battle between. There's a boss battle happening in co-op, right?
Yeah.
And right here, he's going to call down a bunch of arrows from the sky. This is incredibly impressive. This graphic right here. And once I saw this, I was like, this looks really good. I think the other person right now is going to whip out some sort of like dragon head on their arm and
Yeah.
just throw out fire.
Uh-huh.
So, what made this look better to me
Yeah.
than I'll say the other Souls games is I think first of all, visually it looks more interesting, right?
Mhm.
We have these giant like trees made of light throughout this land that they're
Very
in.
true.
The I'll say the movement looks very similar. You know, you still have it's hard to tell because like the character is purposely walking instead of showing like any type of dynamic movement. It has
Yeah.
the role that you expect in a Souls game.
Yeah.
But I
Opening a
noticed
door
when the
like a
character was
boss.
jumping, yeah, I noticed when the character was like jumping from like platform to platform, it looked more dynamic.
Mhm.
Like it looked like, okay, like this character has some sort of ability to jump from one place to another instead of Dark Souls just, or Bloodborne where it's just like you can't really do that.
Right.
You told me like it looks like they were taking more of the Sekiro movement.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly gonna feel like Sekiro, but I would say um they came to that like having a dedicated jump button, let's say, and
yeah.
there being kind of stealth and there being more dynamic movement, like came in from Sekiro. Like that's where it kind of like began. Like none other games had that before this point.
I think some of the other things that caught my eye were, they had, I believe they had said at one point this game would not be as difficult as some of their other games.
I don't know if they
That it
said that.
was, I'm pretty sure that they said it was going to be on the easier side. You could look that up while I'm talking, but I feel like
Okay.
that was one of the things that caught my eye, that it wasn't going to be as difficult. It was still going to be a Souls game, but not as hard.
Mm-hmm.
So like that caught my attention because it was like, I would really like to play one of these games and not be super frustrated all the time. But I saw some of the other things. Like it looks like there were a lot of summons, but you could summon AI people to fight with you. Looks like AI spirits to fight with you, as well as summoning like another player if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like summoning other players because I like to feel like I did this by myself. But like summoning like an AI spell would be like I could see without like working in my boundaries.
Right.
I thought it looked very nice. I liked the fact that there was a map. It looked very open, secrets and all that. Yeah, like I don't know. I watched the trailer and I was just like, okay, Dark Souls. And then I was just like, oh, this looks different enough that I was interested in it. And it kind of in a way reminded me the first time I saw Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Because like, I had kind of played Elder Scrolls games before and, I or tried to anyway, and never really had any enjoyment, never taken any enjoyment out of them.
Right.
And I saw Skyrim and I was like, this is the one I'm really going to try. Like it looks interesting enough for me to try it. And like, if I had not played a Souls game, this would be the one that I would probably start with.
Right.
Because it just looks different enough and like, oh, that looks cool. Everything I saw looked cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing that impressed me the most about the footage and what they talked about was the freedom, I think, of what it seemed to be promising. You know what I mean? Like there's obviously the like open world freedom of what's happening, right? But there's also the more like they showed a ton of different builds like in the in this trailer. Like they were constantly changing like what the character looked like and kind of what the abilities the character were showing off.
Yeah.
It looks like there's going to be bosses both sort of just like out in the open world, and then bosses also traditional go through a fog door, fight a guy in an arena, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro type boss as well. Because there was like a lot of they seemed the character seemed to kind of be moving like through space around big enemies in a way you usually can't do in these games, right? usually the games explicitly are forcing you down narrow hallways, to try to face off against a group of enemies you can't get by without unless you want to try to run by them, dangerously, or you're going to go through them one by one and take them out.
It's
so
very claustrophobic.
Yeah, very claustrophobic, and it looks like when we see the stuff where in the actual like castles, the dungeons which they called them in this explicitly. Once again, harkening I think a little bit more towards like the Zelda, like the Legend of Zelda direction in some ways. Explicit areas which are going to kind of be more linear, more claustrophobic, mixed with bigger open areas where your horse can double jump and go on these like launch pads that send them flying up mountains and stuff like that. I don't know if there is going to be they say like, oh, if you this like light, this, if you, when you go to a bonfire, basically, whatever I forgot what they called, like their rest points or whatever, it will kind of like spring out like a beam of light for you to like show you where you have to go, or where the next, like the critical path thing is. But of course you don't have to follow that. So I'm wondering if it's like, okay, you got to do like this castle, the castle they showed off, right? Do we do the castle and then you beat that boss, and then once you beat that boss, you can travel to another area of the world and do that? Or can you do the dungeons in any order? I don't think they really spoke to that yet, but it does look like their most ambitious game, by far, which I think is pretty fascinating. And it seems like they're bringing like concepts from Sekiro or from Bloodborne and putting them in more of like a Dark Souls, like fantasy type of setting, with the choice that Dark Souls gives you, right? The choice that the Sekiro and Bloodborne don't give you a ton of choice. Sekiro gives you basically no choice, but Bloodborne gives you a very limited set of choices you can make to how to build your character, whereas Dark Souls has like a huge breadth of choice. So it looks like they're kind of merging those ideas together and adding this open world thing, which I think is pretty cool.
I was taking a look while you were talking at what I said before about the game possibly being easier, and I found an article from Kotaku from June. Elden Ring will be easier, Dev says, but no difficulty options. So I dug into the article a bit, and Miyazaki, right?
Miyazaki, yeah.
Said Elden Ring won't official traditional difficulty levels, but he believes the new systems in the game will make the game a more forgiving experience than previous From Software releases like Bloodborne and Sekiro.
Right.
So he says he puts it on par with Dark Souls 3, but easier than some of the other ones. It's obviously less linear.
But I think it being easier, I think, comes from this idea, right? Like you said, of the player having more options to attack fights.
Again, yeah, and also it sounds like he purposely brings out the online system, making it easier to call in backup and and stuff like that.
And also bringing in those like AI companions, right? Makes we saw in that footage too. Where like some enemy was about to do something, and he was like, "Get in here, big guy!" And like he called him like this big ass AI guy that like start wailing on him while he was fighting him. Alejandro in our chat mentions that he's a little disappointed that it's more of the same in terms of you're an undead, have an Estus, and what looks potentially like a firekeeper, something new, different. I don't know if you're undead. I don't know if they said that or not. But I mean, like the conceptual framework, I think that is their like, what's it called? That is their like story, contrivance for their mechanics. You know what I mean? The death and rebirth and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I would much rather be Estus flasks than healing items. I'll say that right now.
I actually agree. I was thinking about this today, which I would prefer. And I hate grinding in these games. Like that frustrates me. So what if they're telling me you can beat this battle with the flasks that you have, you can do it. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that. I don't want to have to in Bloodborne when I get stuck, go grind for 40 minutes,
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's possible Justin is saying this right now for some reason that is going to remain secret at the moment.
It's true.
But yes, I would rather have Estus instead of like some sort of healing system, unless I don't think they'd ever do like a recharging health situation or anything like that. So
Yeah, I could see that being a ring. They could put a ring where that does it very slowly or
they
whatever.
they've always had like, but it's always like so slight. It's like 1 MP per 20 seconds or whatever it is. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know what the whole like looks like we do it. I'm assuming that woman who has like the one eye that they showed is gonna be like the fire keeper, like kind of level up person. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
She has like that voice. She might even be it might even be the same voice. So yeah, I mean I think also it just looked like you said, Justin, it looked really good. The lighting, the vistas, all that stuff looked really nice. And I think in general, like, I mean, you go back and look at like their older stuff. Obviously, doesn't look good now, but their stuff has always had a look to it that's really nice. I mean, Bloodborne looked great, right, when it came out, and a lot of ways still holds up, and Sekiro looks really good. But I think what's different about this is there are certain sections in games like Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3 even, but that deal in like bright, colorful areas. And
not like this though.
But they're very few and far between. Like there's one like the area that you like your home base in Dark Souls 2 is like has a lot of light in it and looks nice, but nothing like you see in this trailer or this gameplay preview, right? Like there is so much color and like variety in what we're looking at, I think it sets it apart. Also, again, they're running the PC version of this thing. They said that. I don't know how we'll see. We'll have to see how it holds up on current consoles and also on previous consoles because it's coming out on both. Their games like post Dark Souls 2 have run pretty well on console, but they have had like a history before that of having games that didn't run so great. So what we're gonna have to see how this runs.
Hopefully they make it where this thing runs at least at 60 on current consoles.
On current consoles, yeah. I'm more worried about the previous consoles.
It has to run. Yeah, I mean, if it runs 30 on the previous consoles, I just don't want to. I don't want to be beholden to whatever
I doubt
the PS4 and Xbox One can run.
I mean, I think at the very least, like something like on Xbox. I mean, they're making a PC version, right? That is going to be able to run at 60 and all that kind of stuff. So if the console is achievable at it, it'll do it. Alexander says minus Bloodborne's infamous load times. Yeah, they got much better.
How bad those. I forgot about that.
That patch they put out like a couple months after it came out, like cut them in half basically. But yes, that when it first came out, they were extremely long, extremely long.
I will say, not that I know this firsthand, but Demon Souls loading time pretty good.
Yes, very very fast, instant almost.
Almost, like I would say possibly yes.
Yes, I think that I think the loading times that there are there, like the moment of hesitation that is in Demon Souls is probably on purpose. Like they probably don't want you to like head first rush back in. So we'll have to see. We also saw like some like the From like personality, right? We got a couple characters, we got some NPCs, we got that giant. We're seeing on screen right now if you're watching the video version, the giant pot with the arms that was stuck in the hole. That has a very cheery British accent. And like that stuff I'm also very much looking forward to because I like the personality of their games a lot. So yeah, we'll see. And I'm interested, I want to see like what build I end up wanting to do, what builds end up being like the builds that people that's kind of in the meta or what have you. I think all of that can be very interesting and very cool because I think there's going to be a lot of choice here in this game. And sorry, go ahead.
What I was going to say was I don't know this because I haven't really played magic characters in these type of games. Mm-hmm. But usually whenever I see a magic character being played, it's just hand missiles, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm basically shooting things out of my hand, whether it's fire or some sort of energy, whatever. In this trailer, I mean, they were showing like, I'm going to summon a hole in the sky and arrows are going to fall through it. Or I'm going to summon a dragon head.
Yeah.
Like that type of stuff is like this type of stuff that's going to get me interested, right? Like, okay, we're seeing magic, but we're seeing it in a different way than they've shown it before.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, not to mention that there's a map system.
Yes.
Like just pretty, I was pretty impressed by what I saw today. And look, it takes a lot to get me impressed by one of these games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I'm way more excited now to play it than I was this morning at 9 a.m.
Right. And there's some things that I think I'm fascinated to see what From does with their type of environmental storytelling in an open world environment. Because
Yeah.
in their sort of like caged open worlds that they've had, like they're kind of like big hub areas. Like in Dark Souls 3, it's like, okay, like I walk out of this area and I can see these 3 towers somewhere in the distance. I can't get to them yet, but they're probably gonna, and then you get to that wooded area and you have to light the fire in these 3 towers. There's stuff that they always put around their worlds, like even when you have a limited scope and they have to kind of trick it. And I'm very curious to see what it looks like when they actually go like, no, here are like these 4 life trees, and you have to go to those 4 life trees. Like you can see them right away, stuff like that. I'm interested in that. Alejandro says, show me Patches. Patches got to be in it. I don't know if Patches has been Sekiro though, Alejandro. I don't think he was. So I don't know if he'll be in this or not. So yeah, so they showed some cool stuff in the thing. They showed some like big enemies in the open world, some regular enemies. There's no HUD on this thing. Obviously, there's going to be a HUD like in the actual game. There's too much. There's too many systems in Dark Souls, in Souls games. Sorry, in From games. That we see inventory screen that looks very much like an inventory screen we've seen before. So I'm assuming that the HUD's going to look similar to what we've seen before.
Almost identical.
Yes, they have a thing that they do.
They have a house style and they stick to it.
Yes. It also drove me crazy watching this gameplay footage. Just a little aside that this person just walked by all of these items that were on the ground. There were all of these items.
You know what I liked? I was gonna say I liked was that they showed him fucking up a bunch, or whoever was playing this game.
They did, yeah, yes, they
getting
did. Yeah.
Stabbed a lot. Like, oh, okay, like this is what we would look like when I was playing the game. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I think they missed an arrow shot like at the when they faced at the beginning of the boss battle. They shot it like right over his head or whatever, like that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. But we're looking at stuff. There's stuff like we're watching the footage right now, but there's stuff like there's person switching between 2 weapons, like a big sword and a little like knife. And the big sword seems to have some sort of like wind attack that it's like shooting out from distance. The person is like invisible, dashing into people, stuff like that. So there is a lot of seemingly interesting stuff going on, under the hood here. So at the end of this footage, we saw the boss, right? The like the real, like, this is the boss of the area, like Souls boss, right? And seeing that, I wanted to bring up something that Justin and I have been sharing this past week, which is a tweet. I'm gonna bring it up here from Cameron Kunzelman, who writes over at Vice and also does a couple of other things at Waypoint. And it says types of Souls bosses. 1, guy in room totally freaking out. 2, stomp Jomperson. 3, the gang is back together and they hate you. 4, Bumpo's Palace of Tricks. And 5, you interrupted my dinner/morning and now you gotta die. Which of these do you think that boss is at the end?
For me, it was you interrupted my dinner morning and now you gotta die.
I think that's the correct answer, Justin.
Yeah.
I think that's 100% the right. It was like there were some elements of like Stomp Jomperson in the way he attacked, for sure. Yeah. But
I mean, Stomp Jomperson though is just such a good name.
Yeah. Because if you're a Souls fan, these all read to you. You can definitely tell which each one of them is.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's our thoughts on Elden Ring. Like Justin said, I think it looks great. Justin texted me. I was in meetings in the morning. I hadn't been able to watch it yet. And Justin texted me, "Have you watched the Elden Ring footage yet?" And I said no, and he goes, "Oh my god," or whatever. I've never heard Justin text me. Justin's never texted me excitedly about a Souls product before. So
look, it was an impressive 15 minutes of gameplay. Like,
it was.
You usually click on the comments on any gameplay video, and there's usually the first guy being like, "Game of the year." And then I was like, you know what? When I saw that one, I was like, actually, you know what? Probably. Like, it looks that good.
So looks very good. I'm very excited about that. That's now February, end of February. It's in the hell month of February with 1 million games that are coming out. Does it come out the same day as the Destiny expansion? It comes out the same day as one of the other big games.
It's not the same day as Destiny. Actually, no, I think it's by itself.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's by itself. Destiny and something else are on the same day.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Saints Row.
Oh, okay. All right. But yeah, February is crazy pants.
February's packed.
It's a big time. It's big time crazy pants.
Speaking of February,
Yes.
Bobby sent me the text I was waiting for today
Oh.
because Bobby woke up before I did today.
Uh-huh.
And he sent me that Target's doing their buy two, get one
Mhm.
sale, which the two of us have been waiting for and just hoping that they would announce.
I'm pretty sure every day
And
for the last week, Justin has said to me either us actually talking or via text message, I'm just waiting for them to announce that Target sale.
that's true. I repeat myself a lot. It's mostly because it keeps me from buying games before that I know for a fact that it's happening. Because I want to go buy video games right now. And it's like, no, if I just keep reminding myself I could probably get one of them for free, I should do that. So yes, like I was thinking about like, okay, I'm going to go buy, 2 games, get one free. I need to beat all those video games and then be able to trade them in February for the gauntlet that I'm going to be going through.
So I went to GameStop the other day to trade in games for a game we're going to talk about soon. And I had like games from like Christmas time that I gotten that I really had never played. But like sometimes you just gotta especially when you have like two sides of a family, you just gotta write stuff down on a Christmas list because people won't stop bothering you. So I was like, yeah, I like Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs and stuff like that, right? Plus, I had a few games that I had finished that I returned. Bless you. And I went there and I traded in these games and I got a good chunk of change for them. I got like $30 more than I needed for a new game. So it was nice. One of the games by the way, I traded in a bunch of games that came out in the last like I don't know 12 months probably, like if not less. I also traded in Fire Emblem Three Houses, which came out 2.5 years ago.
$37.
It was the most money by far of any of the games that I got for trading in. It was crazy. So anyway, I got that, and the guy was like, "Do you want to get the they always ask, do you want to get like the warranty on the game?" And I was like, "No, I don't." He's like, "Well, you know what you can do? If you get the warranty and you come in here after you finish the game and you say the game's broken, even if it's not actually broken, you can just get a new game. And we have to give it to you." But like this guy said this to me, and I was like, okay, like he's saying this to me, but
so he has to sell a certain amount of copies of that warranty.
Absolutely.
And he's telling you how to game the system because he doesn't care. He just wants to get his quota.
And that's what he basically said to me. But I was like, what if I come in and do this and like there's some like stickler dude here who's like, no, you can only get another copy of Guardians of the Galaxy, or whatever. I was like, it's okay, it's fine. So I didn't do it, but just a FYI. He's like, as long as Jeff's not here, I can say whatever I want. Like this, he's like talking with his coworker or whatever. I'm like, all right. Yeah, I mean, Nintendo games do retain their value. I mean, I probably have like $100 like between like Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and like Metroid and like a couple other games. I could probably get like a bunch of money for those games if I decided to trade them in.
I have a small fortune downstairs in the kids' playroom of Switch games that I'm just waiting for. Like, I need to break. It's basically like breaking case of emergency.
Yeah. But I've got a couple games now that I've kind of banked up that I can like then sell when we when I need to for more games. Yeah. So yeah. Cody says, as someone who used to work at GameStop for a holiday season, yeah, there were guys who would push us to do that. Yeah, you definitely. I mean, when I worked at Best Buy, they used to like push us to sell reward zones. Like we had like quotas. That's back when reward zone cost money and it wasn't just like a thing they gave everybody. But anyway, Justin, what game do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about Metroid? Do you want to talk about Inscription? You want to talk about Guardians? What do you want to talk about?
I was gonna say let me actually get through Metroid because that's not gonna be a very long discussion.
Okay.
So I beaten Metroid. It took me like 9.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. Well, I did it pretty quickly. I feel like I did it in. Yeah. I did it like I played the majority of that game over 2 days.
Yeah.
Um,
There was a couple days where Justin just all of a
and
sudden started texting me like all of these pictures and things that he was doing. And it started happening fast
yeah,
and
like just so
furious.
like yeah, like okay, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at. This is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Um, it's good. It's very good. I have a couple of quibbles about the way that that game handles some things. Um, you know, never playing a Metroid game before, its story, which I was like, wow, there's a okay amount of this, is kind of lost on me, but I've got the basic idea of what's going
Mm-hmm.
on. And I was like, well, this seems neat. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if they'll wrap this up. And then they ended up wrapping this up in a way
Mm-hmm.
that where it's just like, we put a little bow on this just
Yeah.
in case we never come back to this thing ever
We'll
again.
talk about that on, at a game of the year or something because we don't want to
Yeah.
spoil it. Because the
Yeah.
end is, for a game that doesn't have like much dialogue in it, you know, is the end is banana pants. So
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
it is crazy. So anyway,
Yeah, I mean, uh, the first time I talked about this game, I was a little bit frustrated with the way that it handles itself as far as exploration and the way that you can get kind of lost pretty easily, like a
Mhm.
little bit confused on, all right, where am I supposed to go here? Because they don't always follow their own rule set. Like sometimes I would get a new power and I'd want to backtrack, and it's just like, no, you're not supposed to backtrack right now. But all right, but the last time I got a new power, I was supposed to backtrack, and so I think it could be a little bit more clear on pushing you in the direction that you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
The game gates where you have to go. Like, that's not even the right thing to say. The game gates exploration in a way that I really didn't love.
Hmm.
I would have much preferred, like, all right, cool, I got a new ability. I want to go all the way backwards
Yeah.
and like unlock all these doors that I couldn't unlock before,
Mhm.
even if I didn't have to at the time. And what the game really does is it's like, we'll send you back to that door when we want you to go back to that door. Like there's a reason for it. Like there's a reason for everything that game does.
Yeah.
Like wherever it's pushing you somewhere, it's like, okay, you're supposed to be there. But there was like 1 or 2 times where it was like, I literally had no idea where to go, what I was supposed to do. I was pretty lost. And it wasn't like the game was, when I found the answer, I was like, oh, duh, of course. Because there were plenty of times where
Mhm.
in games, I'm like, I'm lost. And I look up the answer and I'm like, I'm not lost. I'm just an idiot.
Yeah.
This was not the case there. I was like, okay, like to me, there was no logic leap there of like, okay, go do this thing. Or sometimes like even just wish sometimes they would like give you a quest marker. Like, this is what I just told you to do. This is what the computer told me to go do.
Yeah.
Because I would like pause the game and come back to it 3 hours later and be like, what was I supposed to do again? Oh, I
Yeah.
have no idea. Let me
Yeah.
just poke at this game until I figure out where I'm supposed to go.
Mhm.
Other than that, I thought the game was pretty excellent. I feel like the Emmy stuff, the difficulty with it was for the most part kind of overblown. There was a time there came a point where I was countering those things like 4 or 5 straight times, and I would fail one and then start countering them again and again until I got to the last Emmy room.
Yeah.
And then I think frustration really set in.
Yeah.
Because I feel in that room, they threw one too many roadblocks at you, and it got to the point where it's just like, okay, like there's literally, I don't have an ability that I can use here. There's nothing for me to do except just be unbelievably patient. But sometimes that patience never really manifested in anything.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you just be like, I need to just hide right here. And like, okay, I'm literally hiding here until I'm out of the like the mana meter for me to be invisible. And now I'm just dying.
Yeah.
And the Emmy wouldn't go away.
Yeah.
Like there was nowhere for me to go. And so it was kind of like, all right, I don't really know what to do here. And I ended up just running, which is not like the way you're supposed to handle those levels. But for the most part, if I could, I would just run from one side to the other. And in this last one, I was just like, I just got to figure out the right path to run.
Yeah.
Because nothing else is making any sense.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think there are a couple things I definitely would agree with you on there. I think, yes, I think that last Emmy is, like you said, there's just like one too many like things in it that, because the Emmy has like that power to like look through walls at you and like stun you, and then also there's all the water in the level,
So
and it's like
you're moving extremely slow.
yeah. And yeah, I agree with you. That was the time where I was like, man, this is just like that because I was kind of talking around it the last time we talked. That was like the one point in the game where I was like, up to now, like whenever there's been a challenge, I've been like engaged by it, and just like, even when it's gotten frustrating, I've still been having fun. And this is the one time where I just have not been having fun like doing this, because
Yeah.
unlike the bosses, which I think some of the bosses can get tough, right? They can be tough, but once you learn the patterns, you can beat them almost without getting hit, right? It's like,
Yeah, it's strict pattern recognition.
yeah,
It's get further, see the pattern. Okay, I've seen it. I need to see it again.
yeah,
I've seen it again, and then you beat it. And then you move on to the next phase. Like if it has 2 or 3 phases, like
yeah,
that's how it goes.
yeah. And I mean, and you have to execute to get through those phases when you know the patterns, but
Absolutely, yeah.
but it feels, you know, it feels like there's a progression, and it's fair, and like, even though it's difficult, you're learning. That Emmy room, it was just like, okay, like almost like based on where the Emmy starts when I enter the room, that's what chance I have to get out of here or not get out of here, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't love, you know, and I agree with you on that. And also I think and I kind of agree with you too about the exploration part of it. It's also, that's very different than Metro games of the past. Most of them would not gate you going backwards at any point if you wanted to go backwards. And this game does that, you know, and I think because it's so obtuse with not giving you markers and stuff like that, it doesn't want you going too far back because it doesn't want you to get lost and then not know where you were going.
Yeah.
But I think, like you said, like having like just keeping, I don't even need like a thing on screen that says you have to go to this area, but just give me a thing on screen that you said that says like, this is what the robot said you needed to do next. And then
Yeah.
I'll figure out where I need to go from there. Those were the only things about the game that like did frustrate me or did bother me or degrade the experience at all for me.
There was one more thing that I really could not stand, and I never really got used. The space jump, the double jump.
Oh yeah, the space jump. Yeah.
Is hot garbage. Like there is no it's one of those things where it's just like you feel like, okay, at the apex of the jump I need to jump, or like I just want to press the button when I press the button and she should jump again, and she doesn't. It's like it is a strict feeling thing, and I'm sure the other Metroid games probably had that.
Yeah.
Where it was just like feeling based, but it's just one of those things where it was like, this is an unnecessary complication that I have to think about. Look, that game has a wild control scheme, right?
It does.
There are there are times where you need to be switching between 3 buttons to the same 2 buttons, but adding in a 3rd button and letting go at one of the buttons at the right time. On top of that, I don't want to have to memorize at what point and feel it. Like, at what point do I need to hit the jump button again? Because if you are off by a millimeter, you are falling.
Yeah, yeah.
So
it's also
that,
a thing, right, where the space jump only engages if you're jumping at an angle.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, much like the screw attack is kind of the same. It's the same way, you know, an angle. So you have to be doing like that spinning jump to even do the double jump or the space jump or the screw attack, right? You can't just jump straight up in the air and then jump again, right? That's not how the jump system works. That is definitely a holdover from previous Metroid games. That's like one of those things where I'm sure they were just like, we can't change this. And like I agree with you. I think let's say, like, I understand not having the infinite jump that you have. I understand like being like, there you have to do this jump to do it, but just like the basic double jump, I wish was just like a basic double jump. Yeah, I totally agree.
It's one of those things where it's like they throw an unnecessary frustration at you for really no reason.
Yeah, The reason is because this is Metroid. Like that's not a good reason. That's not me telling that's a good reason. That is the reason though, is because it was always like that.
But this is like one of those things. It's not like, hey, look, Master Chief now runs, and there are the weirdos out there that are like, no, you can't do that. This isn't like. This is literally like, just come on. Nobody's going to complain about if the double jump is easier to do.
There probably would be some weirdos who would complain about it, to be honest with you.
Of course. I mean, it's the internet. There's always weirdos out there.
And especially with franchises like Metroid, you know? I think, but what I'll say too is like, you know, I think it definitely was like, I was like, yeah, I definitely would hope that Mercury Steam does another one of these and learns lessons from like what they did in this one. What did you think, Justin, about how they use like the switching between, because one of my favorite things was how they switched kind of between that like 2D perspective into 3D for like those moments.
I thought that was really good. And
Yeah.
I really, some of the things I actually really liked were the little puzzle when you have to figure out when is the right time to take out an ME,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
when you have the I forget what they call it, like the big shot when you could take them out. Some of those rooms at the end, like on the last couple of Emmys,
Mm-hmm.
are like they're puzzles because it's like you need the right type, you need the right run up and right distance to get this done. And it was like running around that room trying to find like, is it here? Is it here? Is it here? No, it's here. It's here. Okay. Yeah. And now you're shooting it. It's getting closer and closer and closer. And you're like, oh my God, please go.
Yeah.
And then you got it. And you're like, okay, phase 1 done. Run away and find somewhere else to go, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I 100% will play another one of these when they come out. It's just, there were things I really loved about it, but not enough to be where it's like, oh, this is like at the top of my list for like these type of games. Like there are still other ones I like better because I feel like it does things, it does some of the ideas better, but still a tremendous game. And it's like, okay, cool. I'll definitely play the next Metroid when it comes out.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Also, Samus is the coolest person in the world. I just want to say that.
Yeah. I mean, I like the fact that they're like, oh, like a slight spoiler here, right? Slight. I did try Samus Returns, Karun. And it just, it was, I don't like playing on a handheld. Like that, the 3DS was like, I was not enjoying playing on that very much.
Yeah.
A slight spoiler here. I like the fact that she can talk and just chooses not to.
Yeah. I was listening to the MinMax like deep dive podcast they did on this game, and someone said like it's the best use of the silent protagonist like trope, because when there's somebody to actually talk to, she talks, right? Like the other times that she's not talking, there's no one to talk to. Who is she going to be talking to? You know what I mean?
She's not even making sounds like when she gets hit or anything like that. Yeah. She's just like very stoic.
Yeah, it's not like Link, who like people have whole conversations with him and he just sits there staring at them, and then they go like, yes, exactly, when he says nothing. You know what I mean? So yeah, and she got one line, she has like one line I think in the game. Yeah, I like that as well. And I like that her line is basically like, don't worry, I'm gonna get this shit done. It's basically what she says, like her one line. He's like, no, I got this. So yeah. So that's Metroid Dread. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it more come end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another game we'll most likely be talking about come end of the year is a little game called Inscription. Justin.
All right, this game. So for those who haven't seen it, there's a video on the YouTube channel of me, I'll say because I did not know what was coming, and I'm trying not to spoil anything, it is not the end of the game.
End of Act 1, let's say.
End of Act 1 is a good thing. Not know, but I didn't know. I thought I could have possibly been at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So there's a video on the YouTube channel of Bobby and me were messing around, trying some stuff for the podcast, and while he was testing things out, I was playing Inscription. Because he was way further than I was, or you hadn't already beaten.
I know I finished the game by the time that day had happened.
Okay.
Yes.
So at the very end, I was like, oh, do you want to watch me do a run? Because there was a couple of things about the actual card game that you're playing that I just was not really vibing with, or I wasn't picking it up. And so Bobby was like, yeah, let's watch you do a run. And up until that point, I was having a rough go of it. Like, I was having a hard time beating the first boss. Like, not a hard time. I could not beat the second boss, and I wasn't always getting past the first one. And so Bobby's like, this is the way you got to think about it. And then I had the run of a lifetime.
Yes.
And we got to a point, and it was just like we beat the third boss, who I had not even seen yet. And I was like, should I keep going? And Bobby said nothing. And I was like, I'm going to keep going. And he was very pleased. And he started recording me without me knowing. And so that video on the YouTube is me facing the end of Act 1, and then just you see that, and then just my reactions to what immediately happens after.
Yeah, I will say if people haven't
And
watched the YouTube video because they don't want to get spoiled, you will see like the last boss or whatever in that YouTube video, like parts of it. But once like big let's say story stuff starts happening, because people don't know there's like this card game and then there's like you can get up out of the table and do stuff around, right? So there's stuff that how that progresses along the game. I just zoom in on Justin's face for that part of the video, so you don't see anything that's happening, you just see Justin's like reaction to it. But anyway, go ahead.
So Inscription is a game that we saw around E3 time, when Devolver had their press conference.
Yeah.
And it looked like this, like deck building card game with like some sort of weird horror elements added into it. There was like FMV at one point and like a couple of other like just small snippets of other weird things. Like it looks like you're in an escape room and you can't see the person that you're playing against. So there is a lot about this game that we cannot talk about.
No,
because
most of it we can't talk about.
Yeah. In some ways, somebody had said this, I think it was on the Bombcast, where it's just like, everyone's going to tell you, go play Inscription. And it was Danny O'Dwyer. And people will ask you like, oh, what type of game is it? Oh, it's a card game. Oh, I don't play card games. Well, much in the same way, like I would tell, you would hear somebody say, go play the Obra Dinn. Or what type of game is it? It's kind of like a detective game. Oh, I don't play detective games. Doesn't matter. You need to play the Obra Dinn.
Yeah.
In the same way, you have to play Inscription. It doesn't matter if you like card games or not.
Yeah.
The easiest way to like kind of describe why you have to is because the card game itself is very good.
It's very good. Yeah.
Like it's a very good card game.
Yeah.
The rules of the card game are interesting. The board that you're playing against, like it's kind of like you play around, and then much like Slay the Spire, you are moving your character up a path, and you can choose left, right, forward on the path, and then you will hit not roadblocks, but you'll hit battles, and then you'll hit like ability places where it's just like, okay, you can gain a card, you can infuse a card, you can do this, that, and the other thing, right? When you die, it'll give you the cards that you have on the table, and it'll randomly give you 2 of them. And it's like, okay, pick one of these, one of these, one of these, and they'll do that 3 times. And then you've now made a death card, which you can randomly pick up in the middle of any other round that you're playing. It's not guaranteed to come out. So at one point, I had died like maybe like 7 or 8 times. So there were 7 or 8 death cards that could come my way. And one of the death cards I picked was like a no-cost card. Like didn't cost anything to cast. And I later infused that card to make it like an unbeatable death machine.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this feels so good. Much like Slay the Spire, there were moments where the game just all starts like clicking into place, right? Like you're like, oh shit. Now this plus this is going to mean this, and then this ability will bounce off somebody else. And like when that stuff starts happening, it's all fantastic. Everything else that's happening in the game just happens to be just as fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that's really difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
So I'm not done with the game yet.
You're pretty close, I think.
I'm close. I'm in the I'll say the last act of the game. I don't know how long it is. But everything I've seen up until this point, it's like, oh shit, like this might be the best game of the year.
Yeah. I will say that like the game has a lot of layers to it. And I think that I like card games. They're not like, I don't like them as much as Justin likes them, but it's one of those genres where like when a good one comes along, like I'm into it, and I was into the card part of this, but the part of it that makes it special to me is the stuff that goes around the card stuff, because there's only so far a card game can take me as far as like my enjoyment level. But I will say that there is the mechanics and stuff about this particular card system forced me in the early parts of the game to really start digging in and considering like strategy and stuff in a way that I had not really ever done before in a card game. And that I really enjoyed. But it also does a really good job of, at a certain point, it goes like, okay, like you've done your penance. Now we're gonna like give you the opportunity to get a couple of things that will completely nearly break the game for you. You know, there's like a power curve to it, which I really like. You know, and I also really like that the game doesn't penalize you in any single battle for going all out, because it just kind of resets itself, you know, for the next battle. And that I enjoyed. It wasn't like you don't have a life meter that ticks down, you know, like a consistent like overarching, you know, life meter, like something in Slay the Spire, where you have like health that goes in between runs. It's like your health is consistent on from run to run. It's from you know, from battle to battle, which I really liked. And so I love it. I mean, it's definitely up there for me in my list, you know, on best games of the year, 100%. I think it constantly surprises you, and it keeps adding things when you don't expect things to get added. Like, Justin, you've already seen a lot of the surprises the game has to offer.
Yeah.
There are more that are coming your way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's great. And you know, it made me consider like I should go back maybe and play this guy's like previous games, or you know,
I
whatever.
was 100% thinking of downloading Pony Island.
Yeah.
And was it that the Hex or whatever?
The Hex, yeah, the
like
Hex.
This, it's just like this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He has a style, and he knows like, okay, like this is what I have to. Yeah, this is what I have to present, right? And like it much like again, like Lucas Pope, like it's just, every time this developer comes out with a game, I'm like, okay, I'm there day one, because you're offering something much different than everybody else out there right now.
Yeah, Justin and I almost went in and bought that play date thing together because Lucas Pope has a game coming out on it, or has a game out on it. Yeah, it's a fantastic game. I can't say enough about anybody who has any ability to play it at all should definitely play it. Like, it'll probably run on most anything. Our friend Andy bought it last night, Justin, and he's downloading it currently to play on his laptop. So if you have anything, I'm sure like most like laptops can run it and play it. It's not a very graphic intensive game. Yeah, it hits all of like the Bobby like love points for a game in many ways. It's kind of creepy, you know. It's got some other elements I don't even want to get into that are very much me. Like it's really fantastic.
Oh, here's something I want to say though. Like in much the same way, like we're like, okay, it doesn't matter if you don't like card games. You kind of have to see this one just for everything else that the game that, you know, is wrapped up in. In the same way of like horror, like, oh, I don't play horror games. I wouldn't say that this game falls under a horror category, even though it might present itself that way in the trailers. It's more creepy than anything else.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been any actual horror elements that I've seen in the game so far. And I don't think it ever gets there.
No, it doesn't. It's definitely not a horror game. It has like I said, a creepy atmosphere and a cool like look and vibe to it. You know, the vibes are excellent in it. But it never goes for being scary, you know, like it just is there to kind of give you that mood, which is awesome. So yeah, Inscription, big surprise. I thought like, you know, I thought like, cool, like this seems like it's going to be a good card game and it'll probably be fun, but I did not expect to like it, like the amount that I ended up liking it. So there's that for sure. Speaking of surprises, Justin.
Phew, boy.
We should speak about Guardians of the Galaxy. Because I'm surprised. I don't know about you, Justin.
I mean, you and me, we talk about games a lot, and we wonder like, okay, what do we think about this? What do we think about this? And you know, I starting back as early as, you know, I think E3 when we saw this trailer for the first time, I was like, all right, that looks all right. Like, you know, it's probably not going to be good, but like it looks like they have like a thing that they're going for here. And in the weeks leading up to this game's release, I was like, you know, like, what if Guardians is good? Like, you know, like I everything I saw, like nothing turned me off from anything I saw. I just didn't expect it to be good, you know? I thought it would be like, all right, maybe. And then like you sent me that morning, you sent me the reviews, and they're like, people are saying this is like legitimate, like a fun time. And I was like, I don't like, I have a hard time believing that. And you read some of the reviews, and yeah, people seem to really like it. And damn, like Guardians of the Galaxy is a fun video game
Yes,
that has surprisingly good writing.
it does. Has a very good writing. Yeah.
Um,
I
there are.
sorry. Go ahead. No,
Go ahead. Why don't you go first? Why don't you go first?
No, I mean, I just wanted to add on to that and say like the writing is exemplary, and I think in many ways, while it does take influences and leads from like the James Gunn, cinematic universe versions of the Guardians of the Galaxy, like the use of music, that whole part of it. Other than that, and sort of like the style of it, I think is a little bit, like the MCU version. Other than that, this feels like, like the Andy Lanning, who was the other guy? God, I can't remember. The one who really made these Guardians really brought these Guardians as like the team. I can't remember the other person. It's Andy Lanning, and my brain is like, I can't believe I can't remember. I'm sure someone will remember, but it feels like those Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it feels like the comic book Guardians of the Galaxy, and the story is
Dan Abnett.
The Abnett and Lanning. That's right. Guardians. The story covers, and Justin, I think you're like what, chapter 6 or 7 or something like that at this point.
It's between 6 and 7 or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little ahead of Justin. I'm on like chapter 11 or 12. It dives into like characters and lore and backstories of these characters that you don't see in the MCU versions, and I think make the characters better, more full feeling here, especially because you're spending more time with them, right? I played the game for like 15 hours or something like that, right? You spend more time with them, but I really, really impressed with the writing, and really, like, I'm kind of playing the combat encounters just to get to the next bit of story and writing that they're gonna do.
Yeah. I think the combat is fine.
It is.
It's fun. Like, you're playing as Star-Lord and only Star-Lord, but you're like kind of ordering the other Guardians like what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they'll attack, but you can basically tell, like, okay, Groot, tree these people up, Rocket drop bombs on them, and then Gamora and Drax like come in with swords, and
Mm-hmm.
you could pick different abilities for them as you play. You can unlock more. But like, Star-Lord has the ability to have like a couple of different like elemental combat options, lightning and ice are what I have right now, and I'm assuming fire will eventually come as well. And like, it's fine, it's serviceable. It, like, I don't think I don't think it's ever boring or anything like that. And it's not like they throw combat wave after combat wave at you for the most part. Like, there's a good amount of exposition in between combat encounters I've seen so far.
Yeah.
As far as the story stuff and the writing, it's good that it's good. It's great that it's good because they never shut up. There is a lot of it.
They don't ever shut up.
Even when you're just traversing the level, like, there are just conversations constantly happening. And as Star-Lord, they give you the option sometimes to like, hey, do you want to jump in and say something here? And you can kind of direct the team, like, like, hey guys, like, knock it off. Like, let's stay on mission. Or you could choose to antagonize somebody. And I mean, there's just so much of it, right? And then there are like moments where it's like, oh, like Rocket is glad that you backed him up. And like, I don't know if that actually affects anything, because like the characters, like, famously, just like in the comics and like the movies, they always don't perfectly get along.
Yeah.
They're like a dysfunctional family at times. I think some of the characterizations that they do here are excellent. Yeah. Like, while the movie set like a tone and getting you familiar with these characters, and like, hey, like, let's take Rocket for example. Rocket is a creature that was experimented on, like, and tortured, and none of that was done with like their like, I'm trying to think of a better word than permission. Like, Rocket was held against his will and experimented on. And like, the game within the first like 3 or 4 hours is like, oh no, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how Rocket feels about that. Like, the movies only hint about that in some ways, where like the game is instantly diving into it, And I mean, there's so much dialogue that in some of the reviews I read, people were like, they just never shut up and it's annoying. And like the humor and this and that is frustrating. I think more than maybe any other superhero game that I've ever played, this was written and made for people who like superheroes or people who like these comics. Cause like you were getting involved in a family. You're getting involved in like these people's struggles with self-loathing and how they feel about each other and like the ego that statistical nature of this team and secrets and all that stuff. So it's like you need to be along for the ride. And if you're not along for the ride with these characters, you're probably not going to game very much.
Yeah, I will say that I think like in the second half of the game, there are some combat encounters that go on for a long time. And it's not the combat's not the problem, not a problem, but you start to get repeated like line barks in the same combat encounter, where they'll start repeating the same stuff over and over and over again. And I'm like, guys, just like have them be quiet now. Like I don't need like Gamora saying like they're trying to slow us down and Rocket being like it's working. Like I don't need that to happen, constantly. You know what I mean? Like I am totally fine with if it just you do those barks once or twice or once and then you just stop doing them. So I wish that it was happening less than it does sometimes. All the regulars, all the stuff that is like that is original and not repeated, no matter how much they're talking, I like it all. Like I'm fine with it all. They really give you shit when you go to look for collectibles. They're like, "What are you doing, Quill? You flarking idiot."
You walked over there and found a bunch of junk on the ground. Aren't you special? Like I like that they do that stuff.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Like it feels like this game is a mashup of a bunch of like different games put together, right? And who is it doing this? This is the Deus Ex team, right?
This is Deus Ex team, and I think some of the Eidos Montreal, and I think some of that like DNA you can see at times for sure in certain elements of the game. Like I think the writing being as good as it is holdover from that. I think there are times where it will go into first person when you're in moments, and I think that is definitely a holdover from that. And also how detailed everything is, I think, is also part of that. Like this game is made like a game like Deus Ex where you can go up to everything and pick everything up and look at everything. And even though you can in this game, it is made that way. Like every space is just every space you spend any amount of time in is just full of items and stuff that bring out the space and give the space personality. Yeah.
It's a really good looking game too.
It is. Yes, it is.
It's a good looking video game. There were some moments where I was just like, shit, man, this looks really nice. I think it's a very good depict Gamora.
Yeah,
who I think is who I think is the standout.
Yeah.
Like everybody else, you kind of get like an enhanced version of the movie version of the character, right? Like you know how Rocket's going to be, you know how Drax is going to be, you know how Groot is going to be. Gamora to me comes off significantly different, and I think better.
Yeah.
She's got more to say, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And her design, it's like my favorite. That design of Gamora that they use is my favorite design of Gamora.
The Ben took over Guardians. I think her design very similar to that, where she's basically wearing like this type of like white and black armor.
Yeah.
And it looks real good.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. It is the same, by the way, Chad is talking about, it is the same engine as Deus Ex, Mankind Divided. It is the same engine. They're using the same engine they used then.
We didn't get to talk about this, but did you see that Square, I guess, like had like maybe not an earnings call, but they were being one of the higher ups of Square was talking about like the Avengers game, right?
Yes.
And they basically admitted like we messed up, like not throwing Crystal Dynamic under the bus, but kind of throwing them under the bus at the same time. They're like, we shouldn't have given Avengers to Crystal Dynamic because, and I guess in some ways they were saying it wasn't fair to them because they're not a live service like team. And they're like, we wanted to make the game live service. Crystal Dynamic was not the right studio to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. Yeah, they basically said like Crystal Dynamics basically didn't want to do this. Like they didn't want to do like a live service game, and we kind of made them do it. Essentially, is what
Yeah.
they said. Yeah.
But I thought that was like at least like a healthy amount of like honesty from like a corporate entity where it's just like, yeah, we like this is on us. Like we could have done this better, and it should have been better. And the team did the best that they could, but they weren't the right team for it. And I don't think there's any harm in that.
Yeah.
Like this gives me renewed hope in like what like other studios can do with the Marvel license. And I'm like, obviously, I'm only getting to the part of the game where things like start moving.
Yeah.
But I'm very pleased at the way this game turned out so far. Like extremely pleased. I'm enjoying playing it more for like the Marvel bits of it than I am for the actual video game part of it. But like, hey, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, me too. And I said, Justin, it only gets better, I think, from where you are. I I haven't seen the end yet, so I don't know how it wraps up. But from where you are, it only got better for me.
Yeah.
And I think like, but the thing is like the game part is good enough. Like it's a fun game to play. There's nothing wrong with the combat, and there are times later on where the combat does present you with more. It never gets like I think I've died 3 times or whatever. You know, like in combat, there are times where I've missed jumps, which that's probably the weakest part of the game is like the platforming aspect of the game. It's just not great. But in combat, I think I've died like 3 times, and I think like there are a couple times though where it's like, okay, no, you've got to start using like the different abilities like of the different characters in tandem in certain ways, to actually win fights. Like Drax does like, so there's there's like a stun gauge basically, so you can like there are enemies that have like a stun gauge that you have to build up before like you can do major damage to them. So you don't want to send in Gamora to fight them initially, because when they don't have their like stagger gauge built up, because she won't do as much damage with her high damage like swords. So you send Drax in there and like amp up their stagger gauge, and then you hit them with the and then you hit them with like Gamora's like super blade or whatever, and like that and you kind of have that start to happen a bit more as you go through the game, which I think is cool.
Those jump jets that Star-Lord have, that double jump, it never feels good, right?
No, I never feel like I'm gonna make it.
Every time I'm doing a jump, I never feel like I'm gonna make it. I'm like, I'm gonna come close to this, and he grabs onto the edge, and it's just like holding on for dear life.
Yeah, I mean, and there are things too, like I said, like some of the repeated dialogue, I think they could clean up. There's some times where like you'll be like, okay, Drax, like pick up this barrel and throw it, and he'll just like teleport. Like he'll be sitting next to you, and all of a sudden he'll be standing next to the barrel. And I appreciate the expediency of it, but I would like, like some of that stuff. There's sometimes where like the cutscenes, like the way to cut it goes from like live like gameplay to cutscenes is janky. There are a few times, like I said, the platforming isn't amazing. Like there are things they can definitely clean up, and stuff like don't make me jam on the A button when I grab a ledge. Like it's not a quick time thing I'm ever gonna loot. Like I'm ever gonna fail. And it's just pointless. Like, just let me pull myself up. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, like, that kind of stuff is like, hopefully in a sequel, if they get a chance to do a sequel, like that stuff will get improved, So there are definitely things that are not like perfect about it, but the playing of it is fun enough to get me between all like the great story bits and dialogue bits that are happening. And above all else, it makes me bummed out that we haven't gotten like games of this caliber for like all the like a bunch of the other like big MCU like franchises. Like an Iron Man game that was this good, a Captain America game that was this good, like like would be amazing. I mean,
we could be getting them now because what was it? What's the name of it? Amy Hennig, and what is it? Bad Robot or
Skydance?
Skydance is they're working on a Marvel game, and it's just like it's probably one of the big ones. Like you would assume like a studio that big and Amy Hennig getting involved, like it's gonna be one of the bigger characters. So hopefully this is the start, right, of like a golden age of like comic book video games, especially for Marvel. Because DC's had some great ones. Like DC's had those Batman games for God knows how long, but with Spider-Man and now this, and like. Maybe somebody takes another crack at the Avengers one day, and it'd be great.
Yeah. My thing is like, speaking back to Avengers, like if they had just let Crystal Dynamics make the Crystal Dynamics like Avengers game, like it would have been great, you know?
Yeah,
Like
the story in that game wasn't bad. Like
no,
it was okay. Like, you know, and like there were parts of it that were good.
the story in that game, if it wasn't paced into a framework of a live service game where they had to have like these big barren open areas where you could fight a bunch of enemies in and they could use them again and again for different like, you know, multiplayer missions or whatever, I think it would have been great, because the times where it was like really focused on like story and cutscene and character, it was really cool, you know, and it just lost its way in the times where it was like, and now do this mission where you're basically flying around like an empty sort of New York City where you're trying to like just like shoot a couple of goons or whatever, or you just shoot like glowing like orbs on the sides of buildings, you know. So you know, I mean, you know, I think there's always a chance that, you know, we get to see like for the whatever it's next, like we see a Crystal Dynamics game that is, you know, more like the games that they are good at making. But yeah, I'm very like very happy with this game. Like, is it earth-shatteringly good and you know, something I'm going to remember, you know, forever? And you know, no, but it is a really solid video game that has a really great story. And I hope we get to see more games like this come out of like these Marvel deals. Is really what I'm hoping.
It's not going to win. It's not going to win Game of the Year, but it could it end up on like a top 10 list or something like that? Like, yeah, I think so.
100%.
So
if it doesn't screw the pooch at the end, it's going to end up on like on my list probably, because it is really good. And I'll say this too: Star-Lord doesn't suck in it, and it looked like he was gonna suck from those like.
It did
promos.
Look like he was gonna suck.
Yeah, and he's not. He's actually good. He and a good characterization. I think I think it ended up being, and again, the trailers didn't no justice because they just showed like the combat and didn't really portray any of the writing or characterizations that I think are what are the selling point of the game. And I hope that didn't hurt them as far as like getting sales. You know what I mean? I hope that we don't hear like, oh, Guardians didn't even make the top 10, you know, in the month of October or whatever.
Hopefully good word of mouth picks up for it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Or it's going to be on Game Pass in a month or whatever. Anyway, yeah. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy. Really, really good. Really, really good. You know, it's so, you know, it's, you know, but it's a straightforward single player story based like adventure game. Like it's going to probably be, you know, 15 to 20 hours probably. So if that's not something that you dig, like just know that before going into it. It has no way to buy things with real money, Justin.
I can't believe it.
It's pretty amazing in that way. Do we have any other games that we were playing that we need to talk about?
We just mentioned it, so I think we should just bring it up briefly. We spent a night with Andy a couple weeks ago playing Hell Let Loose, which was a PS Plus game last month. The overview of that game is it's a World War II game where you could die at any moment and have no idea who killed you, where the shot came from. I think you basically it's a map where it's, you know, you got north and south, and there's points on the map that you want to control, and you want to push the other team basically off the map, and so to speak, like take over all the points. But with no, you know, like you die and you could have been killed from somebody 700 yards away. You have no idea. You just like every sound in that game is terrifying because you're like, where is it coming from? At the same time, it is crazy because there are explosions happening everywhere, and like you really need to keep your head on a swivel and like think about what you're doing. There are like, what is it, like 120 something people onto the map, right? Because like a lot of people were comparing it to Mag.
There's a lot of people in those matches.
There's a lot of people on the map, but what's interesting is you can kind of pick like, I want to be a tank man, and so you create squads, and like one person will be driving the tank, and then let's say it was Bobby driving the tank. Andy and I could be like, we will also be tank supporters. And now we're in the tank with Bobby, but we're that class.
Yeah.
Now Andy is our commander, right? And so Andy is telling us what to do, but Andy is also talking to the commanders of every other squad and trying to link up and have some sort of strategy. And then through all of that, there is one, maybe like it was like a sergeant, right? And then there is one commander in the map who's telling everybody, you go here and do this, you go here and do this, you go here and do this. And then he can only talk to the sergeants. And then the sergeants need to then tell their squad, okay, you guys, we need to do this right now. And it's very, I'm trying to think, like, teamwork focused.
Yeah.
But also allows me at any point to slip out of my party chat and into radial chat or like proximity chat. So there were times I was playing a medic class and I was like 3-21 or whatever it was, but I would see somebody go down and I would switch off of party chat where I was talking to Bobby and Andy and into proximity chat. And I would be like, I would see a gamer tag, a Star-Lord. Hold on, I'm coming. Don't go back because the respawns are extremely long.
Yeah.
And like I would run through the territory to get to that person and then revive them and then be like, oh, thanks a lot. And it was like, and then I would see somebody else and I'd be like, Babe Master 69. Hang on, I'm coming. And so I would run over to them, and then on the way to them, I would get blown up by somebody from across the map. And it was chaotic. I was like the sergeant for like half of a round, and there was so much happening in my ears of people yelling at each other.
It was like 5 minutes, and Justin was like, "I can't do this.
I can't do this." Like I literally felt like my brain was going to explode because it just happened to be that round was like
we had some chatty Cathys in that one, yeah.
Yeah, everybody thought they were like the guy who was trying to lead the entire 65 people to victory, and so there was like a lot of cross signals there. You tell your guy to do this. No, you tell your guy to do this. I think I don't know if it's a good video game, but it's a fascinating social experiment.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool because, like, you know, Andy I think Justin drove the tank into a ditch, so we had to ditch the tank. And so we swapped out of the tank class into like a regular company or whatever. And each company has, I don't know if it's like it's sergeant or captain or whatever it is. And like all those captains can like talk with each other, you know, and be like, hey, like, you know, like Justin was saying, like, my squad needs this. Can we? And also, if you want like an airstrike or anything, you have to, or even a tank, you have to request it from the commander. And the commander has like a pool of resources that they can pull from. The commander's basically playing like an RTS, essentially. They're basically going like, you know, okay, go here, do this. They're looking at a map view basically of this game. But we would go like, Andy was the head of the sergeant of our company, and he would disappear like off comms for like, you know, 5 minutes, and then he would come back and he would be like, I don't know what's going, like they're just all yelling at each other. I don't know. They want to take back like Rally Point Alpha, whatever. So we go to Rally Point Alpha, and you can see on the map like the march of like each side and everything like that. And so, you know, you make concentrated efforts to take back areas, but unlike like most modern shooters, like everybody was extremely specialized, right? It's extreme specialization for everybody. So there can only be one medic in each company. There can only be like one like engineer, like, whatever. So, you know, if those roles were already filled, you had to go in with whatever role you had. So if you're just an infantryman, like you're basic, and there's like no scopes on the guns, like you're basically like you're relying on people spotting for you and telling you see people, and then hopefully getting a shot. Like Justin said, like there's no kill cam, there's no way to know where the shots are coming from when you're getting shot. It's like, and there are what this leads to is there are a couple of months like when like there was one moment where we were like basically like face down like in ditches, like with like kind of like low rise hills around us, and we're like in proximity chat at this point, and there are people coming over the ridges, and you can hear people just like screaming into the comms, they're coming over the ridge, you know, and you have to try to find where they're coming and shoot, and there's like explosions going off, and you get that feeling of like, man, you really get that feeling like this is just a video game version of what this was really like, and this sucks. Like this terrible. Like I feel so much
that
anxiety.
Night I was saying,
yeah,
I was saying that night, like, shit, man, this is intense. Like even as a video game, it's intense.
Yeah.
I think more than any other like quote unquote war game I've ever played, right? Like Battlefields and stuff like that. did not elicit these type of feelings where you were like, all of this is bad. This is real bad.
Well, because in Battlefield you can still like, oh, like I'm gonna whip around and like quick headshot this guy and then spin around here and like do this and do that or whatever. In this game, it's like you feel helpless most of the time. You don't know where the gunfire's coming. You're relying on other people to sort of like give you direction and let you know where things are happening, and you're like relying on your commanding officers to lead you into the places you need to be, you know. And it definitely seems like a game where you need to play it a lot to like get good at it and to get like the feeling and vibe and be able to sort of like really do well in it. And it's just not a game we're gonna play like a lot. Plus the matches take forever. They're like 45-minute long matches, hour-long matches.
They said, I think, 45 to 90-minute matches, depending on like the back and forth. And it was like, oh shit, that's a long amount of match. That's a long time. This is like
I'm dedicated to this game and only this game, like type of game. If you want to be good at it.
I mean, definitely neat though.
Yeah, for sure.
I would like to see more games. You know, I would like to see more games experiment with that type of chat system for sure.
I would like a slightly more arcadey version of that. Like I don't like
bring back Mag. Yeah. Let's do it.
Like I loved playing PUBG, and I loved the fact that it was like, you know, it put an emphasis on some of those simmy aspects of like of combat and gunplay and bullet drop and all that kind of stuff. This is like a whole other level beyond like that. Like if it was like PUBG level of like tactic, like with this shell on top of it, I would be okay. Because listen, you could put a scope, like you're like, no, I'm just looking down like the iron sights of this like rifle that was made in 1941 and looking for people who are running like what feels like a million miles away from me, you know, and just hoping and praying that like a shot's gonna hit. And so it's just very difficult in that way. It's so much more difficult than most like games of its ilk, you know. And the answer is no. I do not want to go to war. I really do not.
Bobby and I can't ever be drafted.
No,
because we're too old.
We're too old now. So sorry, world. You don't get these soldiers.
But... Get out there and be like, man, the graphics here are really realistic.
Yeah, this looks really good.
My head gets blown off.
Is this running on a 3080? Yeah, so we played some Hell Let Loose. I also dipped into like I played like I went like so full bore on like finishing games for a while that I was like, I just need to dip in a couple games. So I dipped into like Boomerang X for a couple of minutes. I dipped into like what was that game? Oh my god, the singing in space game.
Oh,
Opus Star Song.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
And then like an hour or so of Wildermyth. I have really no opinions on like any of them really, other than Boomerang X. Things that could get real hard.
It does. It gets there.
And Wildermyth seems like it could be my jam, but I just didn't put enough time into it to really say anything about it. Anything more than that. So
Alejandro asks here, I know it's a little bit late, but thoughts about that Halo footage from last week? I thought it was good.
Yeah.
That game definitely got a visual pass over the last
14
months.
Mm-hmm.
Halo times Far Cry or Halo cross Far Cry, I could get down with that. I was very worried about what that campaign footage was going to look like because they had not shown it, and I was already sold on the multiplayer. So it's not like I wasn't going to be there for Halo.
Yeah.
But I watched that and I was like, okay, like that grapple hook looks like you know what? It should just be a law. Grapple hooks need to be in every video game. I don't care if you don't need it. I just want one. Jumping out of that Banshee, grappling to another one, and then getting in it and stuff looks like a good time. Story-wise, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea how long this takes place after 5.
Yeah. But it does follow directly from 5 because they mention stuff from 5 in.
They mention stuff from 5, but yeah, I don't know. I'm there for it for 100%. I thought it looked pretty good. I definitely like the glow up that game got.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think it looks neat. I think like it seems like they've added some more verbs to like what Master Chief can do. So the grapple hook and some other stuff. They straight up like recreated like that Battlefield like trailer thing where he like jumped out of the one plane and shot the other plane and then grappled to another plane, you know, all that kind of stuff or whatever.
100%.
So yeah, I mean, I hope that there are like more there's more like visual uniqueness to different areas of the map. They didn't show like a lot of visually unique areas. A lot of it looked like this is what like the beginning of Halo looks like when you're on the Halo. Yeah. You know, like that's like what it looked like to me. I'm sure there'll be different stuff, but they didn't show much of that. But no, it looked nice. You know, I for me, like a Halo campaign though is like so much more about like I guess how the story like drives me, you know, like I like the Halo lore and I like that stuff. So, you know, I'm interested to see like what that is like the overall picture of that and what kind of stuff they do. And if they wrap up, not that I really remember anything that happened in 5 other than you were being hunted by Luke Cage and then what's her name went rampant at the end. Cortana. Locke is the hunter, yeah.
By,
Locke, yeah. But he's played by the guy who played Luke Cage in the
Luke Cage, yeah.
Yeah. And then Cortana went rampant at the end of that. And then sorry, go ahead.
Good. No, I was just gonna bring up that trailer had a decent amount of humor, which I hope sticks in the game. And like not just like haha, I told a funny joke, but like dumb humor.
Right.
Like Master Chief calls in, I think it's the flying thing is a hornet, right? And so he just calls in this hornet, and like you expect the hornet to be like, you know, just like placed down very gently, and it's dropped from like 50 yards in the air, and just like crashes down on the platform. Like that's to me, that's funny, like because that's dumb, right? And then Master Chief goes and saves these guys, and it's like you're safe now. And the next scene they show him, he's driving them off of a cliff. Like I thought that was hysterical.
Yeah.
And so like I hope that there's like more of those moments where it's like unintentionally but intentionally funny.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what's gonna happen there? But I think it looks cool. The Far Cry aspect of it for me is not something that makes me excited, but you know, I also don't expect it to be as like as big or as like, you know, as cookie cutter as the Far Cry games become. So I'm not concerned about that. So I'm definitely interested in playing it. There was also a moment at the end of Halo 5 where they were like, let's go find Dr. whatever. Or
Halsey.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know what that means. Like or whatever, I didn't remember what it meant. So so I don't know if that's gonna be a thing in this or not. All I remember is it snuck onto our top 10 that one year, because of Bobby North.
Halo 5?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Bobby North really fought for that game.
Yeah.
It's not the Halo I would have fought for.
Not my Halo.
Now 4. Not my Halo. 4 I'll fight for that. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of stuff, really quick, Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 got delayed till 2023.
Oh, fuck. I don't really want to talk about this.
We don't know, I'm just saying it because we don't know how much you love Overwatch, so just wanted to put it out
there. I'm bummed that it got delayed. I mean, I expected Blizzard Diablo to I expected Diablo to be delayed, right? Because like there's obviously there is a bunch of shit happening at Activision Blizzard right now. And so they showed Overwatch 2 a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And when they showed it, they were like, they didn't just like when they originally showed Overwatch, they didn't just show a CG trailer. They showed a decent amount of gameplay.
Yes, they did.
So I'm thinking like, okay, this game is not very far off.
Yeah.
The developers at the time were like, this game's not very far off. And it's 2 years since that point, just the other day. And they started, as Cody brings up in chat, they started showing off it during like an Overwatch League. Like I think some of the league teams were playing it. And it's like, okay, this game can't be that far away. Apparently it's very far away because it's not even coming out in 2022.
No. No, it's
We
not.
talked about this. Like,
Yeah.
that game has to be undergoing some sort of radical change. Like,
Yeah.
it can't just be balancing because it's still just Overwatch.
Well, a lot
It's
of what somebody said, I think it was, I don't know if it was Mikey Ibarra or it was someone else at Activision, but they mentioned really in their interview like that the turnover of leadership has definitely slowed the game's progression down quite a bit. Because they've lost, I think, 2 directors in 2 years or whatever, or in
Yeah.
6 months or whatever it was. I don't think it was 2 years. I think it was within a year that Kaplan and the other guy both left. So that's major shakeup. You know, when you don't have somebody to make the decisions, like that's a big problem.
The thing about Halo, right, is I'm sorry, Halo. God, the thing about Overwatch is when Overwatch first came out, I remember people complaining vehemently, like this game should be free to play and pay for characters, and I was like, no, like you should. At the time, they were doing it like, well, you could switch to any character during the matches, right?
Mhm.
Like that was the thing back then. You could have 6 tracers if you want to have them.
Yeah.
And I was like, they should do this. They should do it the way that they're doing it, right? You pay the $60 or whatever, and you get everybody right off the bat, and then they'll do free updates. That's 5 years ago now. We are in a different place in the world when it comes to free to play games. Like, I don't think they could get away with doing that business model again, especially because it almost seemed like they were a live service game that was not prepared to be a live service game. When you look at the time, like the constant updates that Apex, PUBG, and Fortnite are getting, Overwatch was not. I'm not even going to say lagging behind. They're not even in the same stratosphere as those games. Like
Yeah.
you're getting a character every 8 months, a map once a year, and for that type of game to have success now in 2022, 2023, it has to be a live service game that's getting constant updates. Like there has to be some sort of path forward where you're not waiting 8 months for new content.
It's definitely have a battle pass. That's for damn sure.
No, it'll have a battle pass. And look,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. We talked about this. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
are you ready to pay for every character in the game? And it's like, if they do the model correctly, right? And they do it like let's take Apex, for instance, where Bobby and I haven't played enough Apex or we don't have to pay for a single character, right? Like every character that's come out since that game launched, I think we paid for the first character and then not one since then. We've always had enough
the first
in-game
2
currency
because
to pay
they
for it.
both came out at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
Mirage and
everyone
what's it called?
after that.
Yeah, Caustic. Mirage and
Caustic.
Caustic. Yeah.
We checked yesterday. I could afford the next 4. I haven't played until last night. We had not played Apex in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months or whatever.
Yeah.
Barely touched it.
Yeah.
I still have enough currency for the next like 5 characters that come out.
Yeah.
And like, look, make it so the skins are whatever, right? Like the skins in Apex are stupidly expensive.
Yeah.
They're probably too expensive. I understand that.
Yeah.
If I see one I really like, I'm gonna drop $20 on it. I don't care. Like I get too much enjoyment out of that game, and it's free, and I have no problem dropping money into it. That's the path that Overwatch 2 needs to follow if it's going to have any success. They cannot release that game and be like loot boxes.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely have loot boxes. Apex sells loot boxes.
Yes, they still have loot boxes.
Yeah.
You're right. So but you can still buy skins that you like when they come up in the store.
Yeah,
Overwatch
you can buy
does not-
anything. that you can.
Overwatch doesn't give you that ability.
Yeah,
It's loot box based. Like a year later, when the event rolls back around, you can then buy last year's skin for like the in-game currency or whatever. But if you see those skins that you really like when like the Halloween event rolls around, you got to get them out of loot boxes. At least that's how it was when I last played that game.
Yeah. Those skins, yes. Yeah, I don't know. Like, the Diablo director left because they're a shit heel or whatever. They got fired, I think. So that makes sense to me, and we never really knew when that game was coming out anyway. But yeah, the Overwatch thing is crazy to me. It's just crazy to me
really
because
is.
Even if you're just reworking the business model, you would think that it wouldn't change fundamentally like how the systems in the game work. You would just be kind of changing up some other stuff. I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with like morale and leadership and stuff like that. There, I think just they got hit really hard with people leaving. I think people tried to like when Jeff Kaplan left, people tried to be like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you know, it's like the person taking over has worked on the game and they're not really gonna miss a beat. And like it's just not true. Like it's just not true when you lose like basically the face of the game, you know, in those situations. So I don't know. I half expect like them to shut down the game and just push that studio over to work on Call of Duty. Like you know what I mean? Like that's really the state of Activision at this point. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what their whole fucking deal is going to be, but it's crazy to me. The whole situation is crazy. But yeah. But I think that's enough. I think that's enough chit chat from us, Justin.
I think so.
If you're watching this live or recorded, you're watching it over on our YouTube channel. You go to misadventure.land for that. Please remember, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Liking the video is a huge deal. Like, please, if you're watching this video right now, just click that like button. It's really, really important. It really helps with getting people to view. You can see a direct correlation between how many likes this video got and how many views we got. If you look through our videos, you can see the correlation, you know, between those two things. So please do that. Share it with your friends, please. And the notification, the bell too. You'll always know when we go live or we put up a video. Even surprise videos like Justin's inscription reaction that is on there like this. On the YouTube channel right now. We've got more stuff on the way as well. We do this every Thursday around 8:00 Eastern time, so join us for that if you're interested. If you want to listen to it pre-recorded, just, you know, the audio version is on all your podcasting platforms of choice, so check it out there. I'm at Bobby Shortle on Twitter. Justin
_says_hey.
Yeah, and so we're back next week with probably another games podcast, unless we get a wild hair and decide to do something else. We're coming. This is November. We're getting close to the end of the year, Justin.
I know. It's crunch time.
We've got Forza Horizon this week, next week, right? Beginning of next week, I believe.
Currently the highest rated game on Metacritic this year.
Mm-hmm. We got to play. I think I'm gonna play some Unpacking this weekend. I hear it's very short, so I think you can play it in like a sitting. It's on Game Pass, so I'm gonna play that for sure. And then finish off Guardians.
I'm not here this weekend.
Uh-oh.
So I need to finish Guardians, and then hopefully I'm gonna have 3 new video games in my hand at some point on Sunday, and I'll try and tear into one of them before we record again.
Yeah. 2 of those games will be games that we might be able to play a little together. So
yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
So yeah, that's gonna do it for the show. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Bobby.
And thank you to everyone who's watching and listening. Until next time, be good to one another. Later.